Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. Thanks to each of you for being here. I want to say at the outset a couple of things. First, I'm not familiar with many countries that are asked to simply ignore their own immigration laws, separate and apart from their criminal laws, just their own immigration laws. Those countries that do exist or may have existed over time don't remain countries very long because things happen when you don't enforce your own immigration laws. We don't have to travel very far in our own continent or throughout Europe or Asia or Africa to see what would happen if one of us entered one of those countries, took up residence there unlawfully. It likely wouldn't end well for us. I also want to observe that there's been several mention here today about the difference between state authority and federal authority, a reference to states' rights. I don't like using the term states' rights, not only because it conjures George Wallace's image, also because it's inappropriate. States don't have rights. Individuals have rights. States have authority. That's the inverse polar opposite of a right. We have parallel authority with parallel sovereign jurisdictions in this country. The U.S. government, the one headquartered in this city where we sit today, has authority over our immigration laws, laws governing naturalization, who may enter the country, who may stay under what terms and conditions or for what period of time. We do need our federal government to be able to undertake those efforts, to perform those efforts well. We've adopted a number of techniques to procure and encourage the cooperation of state and local jurisdictions. Sometimes those have been ignored, and that is unfortunate. I'll get more to that in a moment. But look, we're exploring something today that is not without cost. The cost of an unsecured border and unprecedented illegal immigration during the 4 years of the Biden administration remain both stunning and debilitating. The Trump administration, for its part, quite fortunately, has done a very effective job at securing the border and beginning the process of deportations on a very large scale. But there's a lot of work left to be done to deport the many millions who remain in this country for us to be able to restore law and order. People who, if they did immigrate to almost any other country on earth, would be in a whole lot of trouble and would be facing those things, and yet we're made to feel as if we would be doing the wrong thing by enforcing our immigration laws as such. That important work that's being done, carried out every day by brave men and women in federal law enforcement, continues to be obstructed across the country as radical leftists who are proudly, aggressively supporting sanctuary cities try to undermine the enforcement of federal law. These Democrat-controlled state and local governments have, in many instances, been working actively, aggressively, through these sanctuary city policies to subvert not just federal law, but the enforcement of federal law by duly sworn and authorized federal law enforcement officials. They are trying to do one thing by enforcing the law, which is to prioritize the well-being of American citizens and the safety of the American homeland. This terrible reality that we face is highly offensive to the citizens of the United States, especially those who have done the work to immigrate to this country legally and to do it the right way. Now, believe it or not, not that long ago, Democrats supported, and President Clinton himself signed into law, the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, commonly known as IRIRA. That act expanded border enforcement capabilities and helped bring immigration under control at a time when illegal immigration to the United States was far less frequent, far less of a large problem than it has been in recent years. In 2016, President Trump ran for president and was elected on a promise to stop illegal immigration. Democrats intending to oppose the president at every turn decided to depart in that moment from their previous, more common sense position and to go all in on the belief that our nation should effectively have no border at all, that borders are sort of aspirational suggestions that we can look the other way on. That brings us to the topic of today's hearing, the cost of sanctuary cities. So what is that cost? Well, the cost is clear. It is waste, fraud, and abuse by illegal aliens who shouldn't be within our borders. We saw this in Minnesota, and we've seen it elsewhere. The cost is clear. More than anything else, it's the loss of human life, innocent human life, innocent American lives at the hands of illegal aliens who have perpetrated some of the most heinous attacks on innocent American lives in recent memory. And these are entirely preventable, entirely avoidable crimes, crimes that would not have happened but for our open border policies facilitated by sanctuary cities. The cost is clear. It's also the increased additional avoidable tax burden on state, local, and federal taxpayers who are expected to subsidize and, in fact, are forced to subsidize problematic social welfare programs that illegal aliens have obtained eligibility for through fraudulent means or various loopholes. To say nothing of the education system, which, because of a Supreme Court ruling in Plyler v. Doe 4.5 decades ago, states are also forced, by no choice of their own, to supply that additional benefit as well. So look, the cost is clear. It's all over the place. We can't ignore it. And by continuing to ignore it, we create additional problems. Let's not dress this up as something that it is not and never can be.